I want to talk a little bit today about the power of the resurrection. I'm picking that up from a verse in Philippians chapter 3, verse 10. Let's read it together. And it says, that I may know him, that's Yeshua, and the power of his resurrection, dunamis anastasis, and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed unto his death. Well, first of all, I want to say that we are in a process of becoming more like Yeshua every day. Hopefully, you and I are more like him today than we were yesterday, and will be more like him tomorrow than we are today. But in that process, we see three elements to that here. One is knowing him personally, which is probably the most important part. But then there's the power of the resurrection. Not only do we get to know him, but he gives us access to his power, to his authority, to life, to resurrection. Woo! And then he also says that we have to share or get the opportunity to share, participate in his sufferings together with him. So there's a balance between those three, because if you just talk about power, it can lead you into kind of almost a cultic pride and almost something kind of witchcrafty. But we don't believe that. We believe in that balance between personal knowing the Lord and knowing the power of his resurrection and being willing to obey him, sacrificial love, loving, which involves suffering as well. Acts chapter 2, verse 24. This is talking about the moment that Yeshua was raised from the dead. It says, whom God raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he, Yeshua, should be held by the pains of death. And what it's talking about, this, as I understand it from the scriptures, when Yeshua died, his body was put in the grave, maybe inside the grave, but then his spirit, his soul, descended into hell. Yeshua wasn't raised just from the grave, a meter or two. He was raised up from hell. Because the price of death is not, the price of sin is not physical death. The price of sin is hell. Yeshua went down in there and to destroy the power of hell. He went to the lowest place. When I think of why he cried and he said, Father, take this cup from me. Don't, not my will, but your will. Why did he cry at that moment? It wasn't just for a physical crucifixion. It was because he knew he was going to have to face the powers of sin and death and hell and Satan. And that came upon him to get you out of there, get me out of there. So Yeshua was not raised from the grave. He was raised from the lowest place of the universe. He was raised from the lowest place to the highest place. Because God's making that power available for you and me. Now listen. You might have had a bad day. I might have had a bad day. But you didn't have a bad day like that one. When many times when Yeshua and the apostles would heal someone, they would say something, they looked at someone, they would say, get up. There's something in our lives that we just have to, when the power of the resurrection hits us, it's just, get up. Get up of that, get out of that worry, get out of that depression, get out of that sin, get out of that darkness, get out of that bad habit, get out of all that junk. Just get up. Hallelujah. Romans chapter 8, verse 11, and this is what I was thinking of from the beginning. If the Spirit of him, that's God, who raised Yeshua, raised Jesus up from the dead, dwells in you, he who raised Christ, raised Messiah from the dead, will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Spirit who dwells in you. Now this, you can take this verse in two ways. It's got two time frames. One is future. The same Spirit that raised Yeshua from the dead will one day change your mortal body from this human body to a transfigured, eternal, resurrected, glorified body. But it's also saying that that same Spirit is available to you, not just in the future, but also in the present right now. I don't think it means that the next minute you're going to get a resurrected body, but it does mean that you're going to get encouragement. You're going to get new strength, new life. You're going to get lifted up. You're going to have, and I'm believing for not only encouragement for you and me individually, but for revival. Come to our congregations and our nations. I believe something is happening here, and it's going to happen. You might ask, well, how could that happen? Amazing enough, in the Bible, in Ezekiel 37, gives a very specific description of how the resurrection takes place. The Spirit brings the bones together and then lifts them up. Brings the bones together and lifts them up. And God said to him, first prophesy to the bones and then prophesy to the Spirit. And he says, come, Spirit.